Hey guys, yeah, I know I don't normally do this, and look, I know my audio quality isn't always the best. Just a heads up, but I wanted to say I'm sorry if you watch this video and I sound like I have a frog in my throat, pun intended, but I was dealing with a nasty cold the last few days. I already had to re-record this video. I am doing a lot better and there's nothing to worry about, it's just, I know it might not sound the best here. Oh well, on with the video.
I'm Sasha Waybright, captain of the cheerleaders and first lieutenant to Captain Grime.
And I'm Captain Grime, drinker of bog grog and watcher of Suspicion Island.
What? Those titles are weak!
Finally, we're discussing this show. Hi, I'm Kitty Monk. I'm here to talk to you about Amphibia, or more specifically, Sasha Waybright, and to a lesser extent, Grime. Let me level with you. I have gotten a lot of requests asking me to discuss Amphibia, probably more than any show or movie ever, which I understand. Amphibia and the Owl House are made by the same people. In many ways, Amphibia is like the Owl House's free-spirited cousin, and they're pretty similar. If you've never seen the show, Amphibia focuses on the tweenager, Anne Boone Joy. On her birthday, Anne steals an antique music box, which transports her and her friends, Sasha Waybright and Marcy Liu, to a magical land called Amphibia. The girls are separated and stranded with no way to get home. Yeah, I know, sounds super familiar, but there is no magic, only amphibians, so that means frogs, newts, toads, take your pick. About a month into her situation, Anne gets the attention of the Planter family. They're led by the wizened Hoppadiah, also known as Hop Pop. Out of the main cast, he's probably my favorite.
So then you add up your deductibles, and oop, guess what, Anne? You're a deductible!
Kill me!
Fun fact, this dude shares a voice with Goofy. Then there's Hop Pop's grandkids, Sprig, and his kid sister Polly, both of whom Anne forms close relationships with. The Planters take Anne in and grow to treat her as one of the family. It has a whimsical tone and style, albeit with a modern day spin, kind of like Adventure Time. I'm sure you're probably wondering what I personally think of the show. You're not gonna like it. My thoughts are kind of complicated. Look, it's right there next to The Mandalorian and the Vampire Diaries spin-offs as one of those shows I always want to watch but never get around to. Or I try to, but then beyond like one moment or one episode, it doesn't wow me. Maybe there were other shows that grabbed my attention. Maybe I just don't have the time. I don't know. Look, if it sounds harsh, please know I feel that about every show I love. I'm an active member of certain fandoms like BoJack, Steven Universe, Wander Over Yonder, Gravity Falls, and it took me so long to actually begin to like those cartoons. When I watch shows, I'll think, oh, this is the stupidest thing ever. How did they get put on network television? Maybe I'll give it a couple episodes and put it down for a while, like a couple weeks or a couple months, and then come back, and then I find how silly I was. To give away my position, I haven't watched every episode. For season 3, beyond the Comic-Con trailer and the preview, I only saw one specific scene.
Would you mind picking me up the latest Cynthia Coven book? Marcy got me hooked and I'm dying to know what happens. And maybe some of those potato chip things she had.
But that doesn't mean I don't know what happens. I know the twist with Marcy and King Andreas. I know about the Calamity Box, Sprig and Polly's mom, stuff like that. Basically, if it's a major plot point or a Wham episode, I'll probably know what happens, because I could easily look that up on Google or Facebook. Besides that, I know and love certain side characters like Lady Olivia.
If anyone needs me, I'll be in the kitchen drinking juice.
Or
General Yunnan! Scourge of the Sand Wars, defeater of Ragnar the Wretched, the youngest newt ever!
Do you have to do this every single time?
Honestly, yes. Repetition helps it stick.
But if I was on the street and somebody pointed a gun to my head, I couldn't tell you who this person is, or that guy, or this thing. Right now, I think Amphibia is a good show. It's just not a niche that's for me. I believe one day that'll change. I did have to watch a few extra episodes for the review, and I found myself more interested than I thought I'd be. Yeah, maybe I should have watched the whole show, but since I narrowed it down to one character, I think I'll do alright. My biggest complaint is, well, Amphibia shares one problem with Steven Universe. Their first seasons are like snails marathoning through molasses. Sometimes watching the episodes, they feel quiet.
Almost a little too quiet. Almost a little awkward, isn't it?
You know how we can get cool episodes like Exploring the Stars or Homeworld, or this is a different world that was influenced by aliens, what's different? But because of the Steven perspective rule, 11-minute runtime, and everybody's bad habit of burying stuff down to ignore, we're mostly confined to a tiny little beach town full of boring humans. Not that every citizen is so boring I'd rather watch paint dry, but those other things we could be focusing on. Season 1 of Amphibia felt like SU's filler hopped up on Benadryl. To me, the show didn't truly start until season 2. After they got to Newtopia, I found myself much more invested. Nevertheless, there are things I like about Wartwood, mostly Mayor Toadstool or Toady.
I have to say, even I'm a little impressed with how you just saved the town from a raging inferno. Here, this belongs to you.
Hey, I'm a big Stephen Root fan. Have you ever watched Get Out or King of the Hill? I've tried for a while to write a script for Amphibia, and I settled on a character.
So you lost control of the valley and abandoned your post, and now you're a fugitive. That doesn't mean we should give up. We can still put those frogs back in their place and reclaim what's ours.
Maybe if this video does well and you guys still want Amphibia content, I'll do a second video, probably on Hop Pop. But for now, let's get to the Lieutenant. Despite everything negative I said, there were two characters who hooked me from the start, Sasha and Grime. I'm one of those people who usually starts watching shows for one character. Like for Futurama, I started watching for Kip and Zap, or Gravity Falls, Bill Cipher, but then after a while, I'll get into the show and actually start liking it beyond that character. For Amphibia, Sasha and Grime were those characters. Why? Well, I love villains. I feel the impressive writing that should go to the main protagonist often ends up going to them. Plus, I am a huge Troy Baker fan. I mean, come on, this guy is Steeljaw. He was the only part I liked about Robots in Disguise. And he's the Joker. When Mark Hamill retires, Troy needs to take over. Just for spoilers' sake, and so this video doesn't get totally outdated, I'm mostly gonna stick to the first two seasons. Anyway, let's discuss. Sasha is one of Anne's best friends from Earth, and one of the two other girls who got sucked into the Calamity Box. For most of her stay in Amphibia, Anne doesn't know what happened to Sasha, but she obviously wants to find her and know she's alright. At the end of episode 2, we learned she ended up at Toad Tower, somehow, where she was captured by Toad Captain Grime.
Now we know that you've been lying to us. Now we know that there are more of you.
For reference sake, Amphibia is kind of like Helluva Boss or Homeworld, where your species determines your lot in life, along with any possible handicaps or privileges. Frogs are like the imps of this world, and toads are like jaspers. Because Anne and her friends are human, to Amphibia, it's the same as talking to a slightly more intelligent Garfield.
Hey, didn't you see the sign, Scarecrow?
Classic Club the Scarecrow!
For the first half of season 1, Grime keeps Sasha in a squalid cell to try to interrogate her, but Sasha ain't budging for 1 minute.
Who?
Sent me? No one. How'd I get here? Don't know. What do I want? To find my friends and go home. Haven't we been through this enough?
Well, that sucks, but first let's back up. In media, trios almost always follow the same Freudian mindset. There's a straight man, or a weak one, a jerkhole, and a cuckoo one. Four-eyed, ego, and superego. Every single thing you've ever watched that's included a trio, 98% of the time, this is how they function. Sasha is the second one. Too bad Anne spends the whole season looking for her friends through rose-colored glasses. Young lady, didn't you watch BoJack Horseman?
When you look at someone through rose-colored glasses, all the red flags just look like flags.
On Earth, Sasha was a mean girl. Truth is, it'd be easy to call her that. It's way more complex than she just spills lunch trays or writes about sleazy old pushers. She's popular, she's a cheerleader, and she's one of those friends who means well, but she's a very selfish person.
But Anne, this isn't cute anymore. We're meeting up with Marcy right now. End of discussion. I guess it's okay if I'm a little late.
On her best days, she drags you through the mud. When all is said and done, you might like that person, and they might like you, but sadly, you'd be better off without them. Think Simon from Infinity Train, or a much more sympathetic Tammy Larson. This is best shown in her flashbacks. She stops a bully from picking on Anne.
Leave her alone, or else you can forget coming to my awesome house party next week. It'll be really sad when the whole class is enjoying the pool without you.
Aw, geez, Sash, I was just playing.
But then she bullies her into skipping school, on her birthday no less, to do a bunch of things Anne isn't comfortable with.
I don't know, Sash. Anne, this is your 13th birthday. You only get one of these. So let's make it the best birthday in the history of birthdays.
Unlike most mean girls, she doesn't do this because her daddy has a lot of money, but because she thinks she knows what's best for Anne. On Earth, Anne is, for lack of a better word, a doormat. She's polite to an awful degree, so it means people have no problem taking advantage of her. Take a look at this scene here.
It's not a bun, Maggie. It's canoe being. My mom made it for me.
Oh.
Give me that! Hey, get your own time off!
She could have stood up to that bully, but she needed Sasha for backup. In my Scara video, I praised the movie Mean Girls for showing that a lot of the time, some mean girls are only mean by association. It's almost always the leader calling the shots, and the others gravitate towards her because they're easier to control. Gretchen is too scared to stand up to Regina, and Karen is just too stupid and sweet to know what's going on. This is true here, thankfully without the stupid part. Marcy zones out, and Anne just doesn't know how to say no. Cartoon or not, learning to say no is one of the biggest skills you need in life. This will be important later. Watching her episodes, I think Sasha is one of the best written queen bees ever. Mean Girls are one of the most poorly written characters ever. They're just one big ball of cliche. I get it, you're not supposed to like them, but they're still characters. You have to put effort into them. Hey, I'm a fan of the Ghost of Molly McGee, but I hate Andrea, beyond the fact the writers want me to hate Andrea. Oh well, I guess we're all caught up. Let's get back to the present. Where was I? Oh yeah, so Sasha is in this gross cell. I have to wonder how she's using the bathroom, and Grime thinks she's some vicious creature. I mean, come on, wouldn't we do the same if Grime ended up in our world? But she uses one skill to keep the guards in line. Being nice to them. She's able to get Percy to quit just by being polite.
That was legit, Percy! Honestly, you're wasting your time here as a guard.
You know what? You're right. Thanks, Sasha.
And Grime implies it's a normal thing.
That, like, the 5th toad I've talked into leaving this week?
There's plenty more where that came from, and far more loyal than Percy.
Eventually, a heron breaks in, and Sasha's tenacity intrigues the captain.
The creature can fight. She could be worth something.
He asks Sasha to teach him her trick, and she agrees.
If I help you get rid of these birds, you will give me provisions and release me. Deal?
Deal.
It takes much practice, and I emphasize much practice.
Percy?
Percy's a grubbing idiot!
Ooh, harsh.
But eventually, they're able to pull it off.
He has...
Come on, come on.
He's earned my respect.
Sure, Sasha only did it to troll Grime, but this is a great skill, especially if you want to be a leader. You do need a firm hand with people, but if people obey you only through fear, it's easy for them to turn traitor or go behind your back. If you want respect, you gotta earn it. I also like what they did with the toads. In shows like SU, they do say that most people working for the evil side are just normal people like you and I. The only reason they're evil is they're on the wrong side. The problem with SU is beyond the amethyst, it was mostly just brief glimpses, and Steven himself was very prone to double standards. Like with the rubies, they're just trying to do their jobs, and they're polite about it, and yet he's like, you're gonna bet his base. And since he's the main character, he's never called out his wrong. Sorry, I got off track. Notice how much stuff they get done after Grime starts being nice to them.
Come on, you toads! No one wants to live forever!
And you know what they say, first you start pretending, and after a while you forget you're pretending. Eventually they're able to fend off the herons. In response, Grime goes back on his word without actually going back on his word.
You're far too dangerous and manipulative to be left to roam free. We both know I can't stop you. So go ahead, be a vagabond.
Yeah, he's not wrong.
Stay here. Perhaps serve as my second in command.
And now, she can use those resources to find Anne and Marcy, and hopefully a way home. So far so good, right? Well, mostly, but I have one problem. In the entire show, Sasha barely appears. I can understand why she didn't appear until this episode, but afterwards, we don't see her again until the two-parter. Marcy, I totally understand why we don't see her until season 2. But Sasha, she has some of the same problems I mentioned with Lilith and Amity, where it could have provided some perspective. Amphibia, like the Owl House, seems to love their foils. Hop Pop and Anne, for example, are supposed to foil King Andreas and Marcy, with both of the other parties being fatherly or grandfatherly. King Andreas might be fond of Marcy, but he's still just abusing her trust to get to the Calamity Box. Meanwhile, Hop Pop might have found Anne to be a nuisance, but he grew to truly care for her like a surrogate granddaughter. The show clearly makes the point that Grime and Sasha develop one of those relationships. Since grandfather and father are off the table, I'll say it's more uncle-niece. I mean, Sasha has no problem talking back to him. They could have used this to find common ground between Hop Pop and Andreas, where Grime is only using Sasha at first, but then he grows to truly respect her, and vice versa. Remember what I said? You start pretending, and then after a while, you forget you are. Most of this happens off screen. I have so many questions. How did Grime grow to care for her? How did she come up with a plan to kill Hop Pop? Or did Grime say something like, if you don't come up with a plan, I'm not gonna free you? How did she teach them how to make pizza and tacos? Grime did promise her he'd give her the resources possible to save her friends, but what if as Sasha played the game, she gradually forgot what she was fighting for in the first place? On Earth, she just rules a school, and the sad fact any student knows is unless you work there, your place is temporary. In Amphibia, her place is secured, and as Sasha is one of those people who never really sees the bigger picture, this would be perfect for her. In Season 2, Grime calls her out on using her training as a coping mechanism.
At least be honest about why you throw yourself into your training. Hello? It's a distraction. You're using it to keep your mind off the real reason you're upset.
Was that true here? Is she such a good leader because it's a distraction? Sure, I know I don't like the fact we got all those slice of life episodes, but they existed for a reason, to help further the bond between Anne and the planners. Heck, what is Sasha's home life like? Is Grime, as sad as it is, the first stable male figure in her life? It's a great big nitpick, and I know the show is about Anne first and foremost, but holy heck, this girl needed more screen time. Lapis Lazuli was used more than her. I think Anne had a great arc, but Sasha going from a cheerleader to first lieutenant, that could be its own show. So we skip to the end of the season, where the frogs are celebrating the Frog of the Year, an award Anne won despite not being a frog. Toadie asks Anne to come with him.
Anne? Sasha? Oh my gosh, I can't believe that it's you!
So adorable. It sucks that.
Nice to finally meet you, Anne Boonchoy.
The Toads arrive. You know they're gonna do something devious. Probably
invite you to a banquet!
Oh, that doesn't seem like a red wedding.
Really?
Yes, despite my rough exterior, I really am just an old softie.
Totally trustworthy. You know what? I get into his van. I'm sure on our way home from the candy store, he won't take me to do a death trap. The planners separate, and Sasha and Anne go to a private room.
Pizza? Tacos? Hamburgers? Whoa, you've got ketchup?
Sasha had this life? Seriously, how did she teach them how to do all that?
Hey everyone! This is a sham! We're not guests, we're prisoners!
What? And I trusted Grime. Just look at that cutesy smile. Huh? In truth, Sasha just wanted to keep Anne from witnessing the impending slaughter. Why? Throughout the season, Hop Pop has been doing so much more than's been expected of a frog that, well...
Word has traveled like wildfire, and we've got to make an example out of him. So, the Toads are just gonna feed him to that thing.
Anne, understandably flustered, runs off to find the frogs, and they manage to escape through the sewers.
Just a little gift for our generous host.
That's awesome. I bet they're gonna...
Fresh air!
They end up at the top of Toad Tower, with Grime and his army ready to feed Hop Hop to this Audrey 2 Sarlacc thing. But Anne, having learned what it means to be truly treated with courtesy, stands up to the Toads, and by extension, Sasha.
Anne! What are you doing? Something I should have done a long time ago. Standing up to you!
Whoa, you go, girl. On Grime's command, Anne and Sasha are going to hash it out
the Toad-fashioned way.
You know what? I'm stealing that. It's no Clegane Bowl, but it is pretty amazing. And despite having little formal training, Anne does manage to scar Sasha.
They don't matter! They're not just frogs. They're my friends!
This is probably her first fight ever.
Yeah, I don't think so. Pretty cool, huh?
Surprisingly, yes.
What?
What did this destruction of Toad Tower, Sasha comes to a sad conclusion. Anne might have been her friend at one point, but everything that's happened to her so far, it's her fault. If she just let Anne go home when she was supposed to, they wouldn't be trapped there. In Amphibia, the planters might be slimy frogs, but they love Anne so much they're risking their lives for her.
Look at me! Everything's gonna be totally fine! Just hang on!
We got you, Anne, no matter what!
Nobody has done the same for Sasha. Only reason Grime put up with her was he wanted something. Besides, the toads themselves are just slimy little amphibians. She has been the best friend to Anne, and arguably, she deserves whatever happens. So in despair, she lets go and falls to her doom. And now Sasha's like 13, so holy heck. It's a good thing she's never getting home. She's gonna need a truck ton of therapy. Guess that's the end of... Oh, look at Uncle Grime pulling through. This brings us to season 2. In the aftermath of the failed massacre, wait, so were they just gonna kill Hop Pop and make them watch? Or were they gonna kill the other frogs? Were they gonna kill Toadstool because he didn't keep them in line?
Man, Toadstool?
If y'all die, who'll I invest the money from, huh?
Shut up and run!
Sasha and Grime are at a low point. So low they've hit bedrock. Most of the armies deserted them, except for Percy and Braddock. Sasha can do nothing but train, and Grime, well...
Are you in here? Oh my gosh!
Well,
yeah, I think Uncle's better than Dad or Grandpa. And how is Sasha's battery still fully charged? And how is she getting Wi-Fi? Did she teach them how to make a cell phone tower? In the Owl House, isn't it a big plot point that Lucy's phone dying means she loses her connection to her human life? To top it off, he's abandoned his post out of shame. So Newtopia rightfully considers him a traitor. The capital, wanting to tie up loose ends, has sent... oh no, they sent her...
I had an army once.
Slowed me down.
And run away, but OMG, Grime really did nothing all this time.
Wait, you're Grime? The fiercest fighter of the Colosseum?
Yep, that's me. You here for my autograph?
This dude used to be a gladiator, and now he can't even climb up a tree.
Come on, just give me a minute.
Eventually, he and Sasha get into an argument, where she calls him out on his laziness, and Grime calls her out on her training.
You're upset because you lost your friend! You're upset that Anne stood up to you, and that things between you will never be the same again.
This leads Sasha into confessing.
Another reason why I've been training so hard. To protect the one person I know I can count on right now. You.
And this is why I think they needed more screen time. Maybe not full-on episodes, but their relationship is one of the most wholesome things from the show. Their friendship strengthened. The two tricked General Yunan.
Hope you can swim!
This cannot be! I am General Yunan!
And Grime, ever energized, decides to do what he should have done a long time ago and wage war on Utopia. Instead of, Wartwood, the people who wronged him. Only reason they succeeded was Anne was there. But if he went back and took over when she's gone. Anyhow, he decides he will be the first Toad in charge, and Sasha will get her vengeance on Anne.
Looks like I've got my own path now, Anne. But it's not over between us. Not even close.
But so far, that's Amphibia, and the journey between Sasha and Grime. They're pretty great on their own, but boy did they need more screen time. The bad part is, watching a few extra episodes, I do want to give Amphibia another go. It took me a million tries to get invested. Maybe things will work out the million in first. And if you have any Amphibia-related questions for me to answer, comment down below.